The Summer League has started. Let's see how the Spurs did after game one.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs, hosted by Victor Wembanyama's new best friend, Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. I am glad to have you back. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July day off. Back at work. We'll get you through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every single day. You guys are the everydayers. We appreciate you. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And speaking of getting started, we're going to do that right now. So what are we talking about today? We're going to react to the Spurs' first game out in Sacramento for the California Classic. Spurs took on the Hornets. It was pretty much a very lopsided game. So we're going to look at some of the standouts, any concerned individual players, whatnot, and also kind of look ahead at overall, whether it be Sacramento or Las Vegas. Just what are you expecting out of the summer Spurs as the summer gets going and the team evaluates talent to add on to the roster? And speaking of the summer league, I've been to many summer leagues. I lost count by this point. I've seen players, shine bright out in Vegas. I've seen players not shine bright in Vegas. I've seen it all. From your Gary Neals to your Bryn Forbes, there's certainly gems to be found in the summer league, and hopefully those gems will be found again this summer. So when you look at these Spurs summer games, keep that in mind. It doesn't matter if the Spurs curb stomp the Hornets as they did in Sacramento, or vice versa, if they get curb stomped, or it's a tight game, or whatnot. This is about player evaluation. You want to see which players are going to work well with this Spurs team. And keep in mind, these players are not just auditioning for the San Antonio Spurs. They're auditioning for just an NBA job. So, a standout in game one versus the Hornets for your Spurs, could be wearing a different uniform next season. Or whoever plays the next game and they're outstanding, like a guy like Erickson or McCoy, doesn't matter, because right now the Spurs are trying to look at talent to build around Wembanyama moving forward. And hopefully the Spurs can do that. Look, and they started off great from Barlow to Champagnie. Great way to start the summer Spurs. But again, try not to get bogged down into, well, they won. And this is great. It's good. Good for their confidence. It's good for them as a unit. You want them to show they can play within a team. But you also really, really want to evaluate which players going to bring in. Look, the Spurs definitely have a need for outside shooting. Surprise, surprise. Julian Champagnie played very well in the opening game out in the Sacramento, California Classic. So keep that in mind. You want to watch him as he progresses during these next few summer games. The last one in Sacramento, and of course, the ones they're going to have out in Las Vegas. Same thing goes for Wembanyama. When he plays, let's see how he adjusts to the league. Let's see how he's going to do against at least summer league talent. He should dominate. You're crossing fingers. But otherwise, you want to kind of scrutinize it a bit. See, maybe his footwork needs a little bit more improvement. That's what the Spurs coaching staff, they're definitely going to be doing that. You don't have to be Wembanyama. You don't have to be Champagnie. You don't have to be, Blake Wesley. Everybody's going to get nitpicked. And that's why the summer league is so important, especially for this silver and black team, as their rebuild is maybe not a capital REBUILD, but just a lowercase rebuild. And right now they're just looking for players. Look, it's likely they're probably going to run it back with the team they had last season. Don't look at me. Look at the free agency moves they made, and everybody seems to be coming back. Less, Bates Diop, and as of right now, Romeo Langford and Dieng. But for the most part, it's almost going to be a mirror image of last season's roster. So which players are going to be fighting for those final few roster spots? Will they come from the summer league? Will they come from training camp? Will there be another Gary Neal that's going to emerge? Another Bryn Forbes? We'll find out. And that's why you should be excited about these summer league games. And I know I am. I know everybody's looking forward to the Wembanyama debut. That's going to be fun. Even if he plays 1 or 2 games, that's more than enough to satisfy the appetite of Spurs fans. So get your pens ready, get your mental notes ready, and look at these players. Look at how they develop as the summer moves forward. And who's going to talk to me about your summer Spurs and what we liked out of that game 1. So bring him back, everybody. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. And I heard a rumor that he is back on Twitter. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm back on Twitter. I made my entrance like Hulk Hogan, like on 4th of July with the Real American Hero sign.
Look at that. By the way, great hat. That's an awesome baseball cap you have on. Love it. Love it. Love it. For those who don't know, Rudy and I went to the same high school, just different years, but same high school. So we're both alumni from Central Catholic out in San Antonio. Make sure to follow Rudy on Twitter at Sweep the League. He's back, everybody. I didn't know until right now the recording. So he's back. Hit him up. He'll talk to you about his show, Sweep the League, and much, much more. And give him your take on his takes about your summer Spurs right now. So, Rudy, first of all, again, welcome back. But let's dive into this before we hit the break here. Game 1, all Spurs, very lopsided. I can only imagine how it would have been if Wemby was playing. I think it would have been just a disaster. But nevertheless, you definitely want to highlight an individual. And you've been very high on Dominic Barlow out of, I believe, Overtime Elite, correct?
Yes.
So what did you like out of Barlow? What stood out for you?
So with Dominic Barlow, when they signed him as an undrafted free agent back in 2022, I love the move. They were thirsty for a big man, and Dominic Barlow is a very active big man. He's not your prototypical big man from these days where he's going to shoot lights out from 3-point range or anything. But what he does is he's great on the boards, whether it be offensive, defensive side. He can score inside. He's got a nice little mid jumper. So everything works for Dominic Barlow. And at the time, he was 19, 20 years old. So I mean, that's the reason why I like Dominic Barlow. I'm excited to see the rest of the summer league with him. Of course, he's going to be playing probably next to Victor for a couple of games, but I think showcasing him. And not only that, he's been on the active NBA roster for the Spurs last season. So this is just kind of like a cakewalk for him right now in the summer. I'm expecting him to dominate the summer. But what I want to see is I want him to solidify that roster spot going into the season. Yeah,
it's going to be tough for him because of the bigs that they have currently. And obviously it's Wemby. And then it's Zach Collins. They're forget about Charles Bassey. And obviously Barlow's going to be in the mix. And who am I missing here? Mamu.
Mamu. You also got Will Champagne. He's probably going to be Sohan as another big guy.
Yeah, another big guy.
Play. Those guys are going to be right there next to Barlow as well.
Right. Yeah. So Barlow has something to prove. And it goes back to what I said in the intro. A lot of these games are really about individual performances. Can they show that they are a good teammate? They can play within the system. Do they have the skill set, the mindset? And so far, at least in one game, Barlow's looked really, really good. He said after the game, it was all about confidence, feeling that sense of belonging in the NBA. Granted, it was summer league game, but nevertheless, you like that. You want him to be competitive, and you want him to carry that fire into training camp to really push Wemby, really push Zach Collins, show that he has what it takes. 24 points against the Hornets in summer play, 11 rebounds, 2 block shots, 1 assist, 1 steal. 10 for 13 from the field. I didn't know he had that in him, Rudy.
Yeah, he does. He's really good from the mid-range, and that's what I like about Dominic. He doesn't rush his shots. The key stat that I liked is the turnover part. He's not very turnover prone. He plays with he almost plays with like a calmness in his game. He knows where he's got to be. He knows his defensive assignments. He knows what switches to make. On the offensive side, he's very active, but he's very smart. What's really good is, like I said, the age of him. He's very, very young. He's going to learn. And what I kind of see going into the season, if you see a great summer season for Dominic Barlow and he has a fantastic training camp, come trade deadline, you've got guys like Zach Collins who may, get interest from other teams for those playoff teams that are trying to take counter runs that need a big man. Kind of makes them a little bit more expendable. Not saying Zach Collins going anywhere, but again, it does help when you have a guy like Barlow coming up because then you kind of lose a bigger contract and get him into, right where you want to be.
Yeah, he's on a 2-way deal right now with San Antonio. So, nobody should be surprised if he goes spend a cup of tea in the G League at the Austin Spurs. That's likely going to happen. But if he's showing this, that he can play at least in one game, perhaps he could duplicate that in the G League and then really push the Spurs coaches staff to rethink, like, is he better off in Austin or in San Antonio, even if it's spot minutes? I could definitely see him looking like a man among boys in the G League and just dominating next season. The Overtime Elite program, would you say it's still unproven as far as a jumping stone to the NBA? I mean, obviously the big one's going to be Scoot.
Yeah.
But we'll see. What do you think about the Overtime Elite?
Yeah, it's still kind of a stepping stone. It still takes a while. Barlow was actually the first guy to make an NBA roster out of Overtime Elite. So now that Scoot's on there as well. You've even got guys like Leonard Miller, who's in the league now. He's in the summer league. So guys are starting to come off of Overtime Elite. It just took a little while. But yeah, it's something that I'm still advocating. I still say go to college. College is probably the best experience you can get, whether, if you want to get to the NBA or whatever, those 4 years or even 2 years, if you want to stay in college, is better than, I think, in Overtime Elite.
Absolutely. When we get back, we're going to continue our chat about reacting to the Spurs' first summer league game. And we're going to the player that stood out for me, and then get into some overall thoughts about the summer games ahead for your Silver and Black right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You got to check out FanDuel right now. Look, take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times. You heard me right. 10 times your bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. $200. That's right. Just spend $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over and under to who you think is going to be the first home run hitter. All on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. And plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. We'll be back tomorrow talking about more summer league games and who's standing out, who's not, and so much more right here on Locked On Spurs. But right now, we're talking about Game 1 of the summer Spurs under the belt. Spurs beat the Hornets 98-77 out in Sacramento. And Rudy just talked about Dominic Barlow as his standout player from Game 1. I'm going to go with Julian Champagnie. Yes, the guy who has a mural in San Antonio. He said he visited it and loves it. And he said that was the best thing that anybody's ever done for him outside of his family. So he's feeling confident. He loves the mural, Rudy. There's one thing this Spurs team lacked last season. That's perimeter shooting. If Champagnie keeps this up, he might be a key player off this bench because Trey Jones is not that good of a reliable shooter. Keldon Johnson is not. Jeremy Sohan isn't. Wemby's unproven and the NBA level. He may carve out a niche for him. This is very reminiscent, as I said in the intro, of a guys that were just outside shooters that made an impact in the summer league and found a way to the Spurs bench. Your Gary Neals, your Bryn Forbes. Champagnie in Game 1 versus the Hornets, he scored 30 points, 2 assists, 4 steals, which really surprised me. 9 for 20 from the field in 25 minutes. I like that he brought the shooting. I like that, he could address a Spurs need immediately. And, wow, he keeps this up. I don't think Austin's in store for him. Your thoughts, Rudy?
I totally agree. I mean, he needs to shoot the lights out, which is what he has been doing. He's going to carve himself a nice little roster spot with the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. With bringing Wemby in, one thing that I've always talked about was you need to surround him with shooters. He's got to have shooters around him. Champagnie's making a very good case for that. As long as he keeps shooting, he was 5 of 12 from 3-point range.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic shooting for him. He can carve a spot on this roster, but the one thing I liked about him was that he didn't show any fear when it came to shooting. When he got it, he was attacking the basket. He was taking his jumpers, just shooting the ball. That's what the Spurs organization needs to see players do, is shoot the ball. Good thing is on the next transition to another topic, there is another shooter that I want to talk about with the Spurs, but as far as Champagnie goes, continue to do the exact same thing. He could probably leap a couple of people, maybe into that seventh, eighth spot on the
Right.
reserve line. So just continue continue the opportunity you have in summer.
Yeah, just like Barlow went undrafted, in the NBA draft and is proving himself a valuable piece. Has some experience in the NBA, played with Philadelphia for a while before he found his way to San Antonio. A lot of high praise from him once he landed in San Antonio from the Philadelphia market. But, if they always say know your role, and that's what I like about him. He knows his role. He ain't gonna do more than what he knows he can do. He can knock down outside shots, and with today's NBA, that perimeter shot is important, and the Spurs needing it desperately. They desperately need outside shots. They found him, and they just offered him a nice contract, but it's also, for NBA standards, pretty team friendly. Really team friendly. They didn't have to break the bank on this guy at all. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rudy. Was it 4 for 12? Was that it?
12.
Yeah, 4 years, $12 million. For NBA standards, that's cheap. Not bad for a guy who went undrafted. I like Champagnie. I know we're going to talk about this later in the next segment, but I'm expecting him. My bar for him rose higher now because we saw to finish last year. He was really getting going. He had 20 plus points, double figure nights. That was becoming the norm for him right towards the end of the regular season. In that Dallas game, he played well. I think we probably will see him in Austin, but it will be like for lunch and then right back. Your thoughts?
Yeah, unless the Spurs actually make some kind of moves to where they get some veterans in or some other players in, I fully expect Champagnie to be a part of the roster come opening night. Maybe the 10th guy on the roster, but he's still going to be a guy that's going to come off as a reserve. He could go to Austin, but it could be one of those cases where we've seen a few times where like Derek White was going to Austin, coming back to San Antonio the very next day, stuff like that, just to get him minutes. But can you kind of salivate on the fact that our 2022 draft, and then, for the San Antonio Spurs, when you're talking about Branham, Sohan, Blake Wesley, undrafted guys like Barlow and Champagnie, these guys could all fit on an NBA roster somewhere, and they're all in San Antonio, so that's kind of a benefit. But seeing Champagnie there is kind of like, it's kind of get exciting for the season because of the shooting. Let's just hope he doesn't hit a cold streak anytime, because then it's kind of like, well, you're going to be in Austin for a while.
And that's what it goes back to my opening. This is what it's about this summer. It's about, individual players, really. Because these games are meaningless. It doesn't matter if the Spurs got curb stomped by 100. Because when the regular season, you forget about it. You move on. Yeah. I believe even during the Spurs championship years, remember the summer league teams would go like over? Like they would win none or they win one, but it didn't really matter.
They didn't even win in preseason.
In fact, they didn't win in preseason.
Wasn't it one year they lost to like overseas, like some international team?
They lost to some international teams. Right about that. But as far as Champagnie is concerned, I have a lot of high expectations for him, especially that I think he knows that this Spurs team lacks perimeter shooting, consistent and a reliable three shot, a mid-range shot, long three, long two. I think he can fill that void. So that was my reaction for the first Spurs Summer League game, was just, wow, Julian Champagnie. Hey, when we get back, we're going to talk about more about your summer Spurs and transition a bit and now look ahead. What are our expectations for the rest of the games out in Sacramento, which I believe is tonight, and, of course, the big ones out in Las Vegas? I know Rudy already told me what he's going to talk about, so I already got a sneak peek. But stay here so you can find out what Rudy has to say and what I have to say about the rest of the summer Spurs squad. We are back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. He's back on Twitter, everybody. Yeah, hey.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Thank you. It feels good to be back. I was hoping to get some kind of balloons or something when I got back, but Twitter just...
if I had a button here that played balloons, I would play it right now. So maybe when I edit this later on, I might add balloons. So look forward to that, everybody. So I'll let you start off. You are the guest. The one game under their belt. Okay, fine. Left. But is there any individual players or maybe collectively that you want to see this team do moving forward in Sacramento tonight and, of course, Las Vegas?
There's one player in particular that I've got in mind, but I just want to mention, like, for 1 minute, Blake Wesley is something that everybody is high on, and
Hmm.
he kind of showed why I'm still skeptical on why I think he's going to be in Austin. 7 turnovers, just really
Yeah.
didn't control. And coming into the NBA, that was one thing I hit on with Blake Wesley was that he plays uncontrolled. He needs to learn to calm down, let the game come
Yeah.
to him. Hopefully, that's something that happens. But my guy, Eric Stevenson out of West Virginia.
Aha! Look at you.
So 13 points in his opening night, for the San Antonio Spurs in Summer League. But the key to Eric Stevenson is he was big time turnover prone in college. He had
Yeah.
0 turnovers. So where I'm seeing with Stevenson is the organization saying, look, we don't need you to handle the rock. We don't need you to do anything. Set up like Gary Neal, set up like Jaren Jackson, set up like these guys. Just get your shot off.
Hmm.
He's a very inconsistent shooter, but he has the ability to knock down shots and key
Right.
shots. So where have we heard that before? We've heard that from a lot of Spurs fans. Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard, very inconsistent shooter,
Yeah.
he got good, stuff like that. So with the organization, as long as they can use him as a shooter, you're going to see him get on the floor from time to time. He's going to probably spend this year in Austin with the San Antonio Spurs, but maybe in a year or so, you might see him on the roster. Let's just hope that his shooting continues. He shot 3 or 4 from 3-point range. Leave him on the perimeter. Let him shoot. Just keep the ball out of his hands. But that's who my guy, Eric Stevenson, for the rest of the summer.
Well, why did he go undrafted? Just a numbers thing, or like,
He's not a talented guy. He's not.
Okay.
He doesn't have a quick first step. He can't really get to the basket. He kind of relies on, I guess, what you call sports luck to get his points off.
Sports luck.
Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of the right place at the right time. He tends to jack up a lot of shots that are very questionable. We did see one in the game where he kind of just tossed up a 3, barely hit rim. So he still has a lot of learning. There's a bit of a learning curve to go. But I think with the organization that needs a shooter that can just be kind of out on the perimeter to shoot, that's where he's going to develop his game to be an NBA on the NBA roster sometime.
Yeah, I got a couple expectations individually. One is obviously Wembanyama. He's going to be under a microscope. Did you see the microscope that Brandon Miller was against the Spurs? He got dragged after the game. I mean, bad. He's the number 2 pick and didn't show up at all. He blamed it on jitters. But
what happened to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah,
can't blame.
You were not a high on Brandon Miller, right? Am I remember that correctly?
Yeah, I was not.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it wasn't for Brandon Miller. He can say it was jitters. He can say, but he was kind of exposed in a lot of things that I was talking about when it came to Brandon Miller. Yeah. He just jacks up a lot of shots. He doesn't know really how to play the game, I would say, per se right now, but he's still young. Give him time. I mean, he may develop into something.
And the same thing, for Wembanyama. If you thought the spotlight was on Brandon Miller, wait till you see when he plays game 1. That it's going to be must-see TV. And if he comes up short, I'm expecting him to get dragged. It's going to happen. Or the vice versa. If he's the goods, I'm expecting 2 things. Either he's the goods, he's the real deal, or it was just a bunch of summer league guys. Wait till he plays against real NBA competition. I think he's almost in close to a no-win situation. The only win situation is he just dominates, just to show that he is it. Because that's the safest, the lesser of 2 evils. But if he doesn't dominate, if he comes up short or he lays a nag, I mean, forget about it. I think they're coming. And so I'm expecting that type of, reaction to Wemby, however he plays. Look, the spotlight's on him big time. Draymond Green recently spoke about it with it was Paul George on Paul George's podcast. First of all, make it very clear he was not bashing Wemby. He was very praised him. He said he's a talent, that defensively he's going to be a monster, that he's a real deal, but that expectation could set him up for failure if he doesn't live up to those expectations. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to see how Wemby handles that. I'm expecting to see the fan reaction, the media reaction, negative or positive. I think it's coming, and it starts in Vegas. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like I kind of get dragged on your show a lot for the Wemby talk that I give.
Just a little bit, yeah. You've seen the comments on the YouTube, they come at you.
I see them all the time, but it's kind of like I've talked in the past with the Spurs seasons. Lower your expectations. I mean, we don't know exactly what you're getting on Wemby, if you see Wemby's tape, you see highlight reels of what Victor Wembanyama. They're not going to show you the bad things on SportsCenter. They're not going to show you the bads on stuff like that.
They're not.
The NBA needs this guy to succeed. They really do. So he's the next generational guy, the next superstar, all that stuff. Lower the expectations. Let me ask you, what do you consider a bad season for Wemby? Because
I think a bad season for me actually would be defensively if he doesn't bring it on the defensive end. I think offensively, I'm expecting maybe some early troubles, maybe some early adjustments. But if he doesn't bring it consistently defensively, where he can really dominate, then I think that would be a little disappointing for me. If he's not among league leaders in rebounds and blocks and contested shots, stuff like those kind of stats. I expect him to make a huge impact, even without any NBA experience, just defensively, his presence alone. So offensively, I think it'll come.
Yeah. So my thing is on the fans' perspective, what is a good season for Wemby? Me personally, I've been saying if he comes out with, I'm expecting him 17 points, 11 rebounds, maybe a block or two a game.
You're close, but not really close. Vegas has him around 17.5 and about 8.5 rebounds. So that baffles me. I don't understand where they're getting that. So this is a sucker's bet.
Yeah, the rebounds, when it comes to some scouts, some of the guys that I've talked to, they're really worried about him being pushed around on the rebounding side. Yeah. Plus, on the offensive end, he doesn't tend to crash the offensive boards a lot. So that's why the expectations for rebounds are low. I have him at 11 rebounds a game because I still think he's going to be a little bit more inside. Yeah. Especially with Pop being the coach, they're going to kind of get him in the perimeter. the post a little bit more. So 17 and 11 is where I've got him. If he has anything above that, great season, fantastic season. If he has, 14, 15 points, 8 rebounds a game, I'm not calling him a bust. I'm not calling him in like that. It's still a learning curve. I don't think he's going to have a dominant first year. That's why my expectations are so low. On the defensive side, I feel he's going to do better defensively than he's going to do offensively.
You see his Twitter handle at the bottom there, and he said he's back. So if you have any thoughts, what Rudy just had to say about Wemby, you let him know. But I think for me, if it's about 17 and 9 and 10, that's about on par. What I would expect. It's about on par. As far as that domination that many people think that he's going to have, I'm expecting that maybe we'll get glimpses of that after the All-Star break, like towards that stretch run. I think that's when perhaps he'll get it going and clicking. And then I think season 2, when you slap the word generational on a player, that's tough. That's a lofty goal. He seems mentally ready for that challenge, and I think he'll try his best to do it. But you got to forget we cannot forget he's 19 years old. He's just a kid. He's just a teenager. You've heard this, Rudy. Everybody's heard this, but it bears repeating. He's not walking into a Sean Elliott, David Robinson, Avery Johnson locker room. He's not walking into a near ready-made team like Timmy did. A near ready team like even Kawhi did, like he still had somewhat of the big three left. Yeah. You had a young kid in the name of DeJounte, and you had LMA. So Wemby is coming in. Part of a rebuild. He's going to be part of a rebuild. Yeah. So we'll definitely see. Another expectation I have too is Sidi Sissoko. I don't think we got to talk about him. I'm expecting him to show why he was labeled as steal. He's definitely athletic. There's no doubt about that. The kid is athletic. He almost put one on Kai Jones in game 1. And he was right there. I was like bracing for it. I was going to call you and ask you when's the funeral services for Kai Jones. I thought that dunk was coming. But, look, it was game 1 for Sissoko. What did he have? 3 points, 24 minutes. Just took a shot, basically. That was it. Yeah. He had 4 rebounds, but I want to see a little bit more out of him. I would expect him to get more playing time. Look, 24 minutes, I like to see that hovering around 30, 32. And use those 10 fouls. Just keep him out there. Just let him get used to it. Your thoughts on Sissoko?
Yeah, Sissoko is a guy that it's gonna take a while for him to develop. You're gonna have to let him simmer there, kind of let him marinate a little bit before we actually get him into the oven and let him play more. But you're right, 30 minutes a game would be great for him. Get his feet really, really wet. Get those fouls in there. Who cares if
Yeah.
you
Who
are
cares? Yeah.
getting
Who
10,
cares?
12 fouls? Who cares? Whatever. Just get the fouls, bang on the boards. He's going to be an Austin guy, but that's where I'm saying with him and Austin, I think that's where we're going to see
Right.
that major step forward when he hits Austin. But we don't know exactly how he's going to play right next to Wemby when Wemby starts getting minutes. So
Yeah.
players make a difference. Playing next to Barlow, Champagny, you saw, okay, he didn't get a whole lot in there. Maybe the next game they come out, which would be tonight, he might get a little bit more looks and they tell him be a little more aggressive when you have the basketball. So I still think he's a really great talent. He's going to make a name for himself with the organization. It's just going to take a little while.
And by the way, if Champagny continues his hot shooting, whether tonight or in Vegas, I'm shutting him down. All right, you're under contract. You're good. You're good. You did this shooting light show for us for 3 games straight. Yeah, you're fine. Sit down or go back to San Antonio or enjoy your vacation or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, the Summer Spurs, they continue their play tonight versus the Lakers. It'll be the last game out in Sacramento. And then the big boys, the big show. It's Las Vegas Summer League. Wemby's going to play. I believe he said a little bit. We'll see what a little bit is. We know that first game is going to be must-see TV. I think it's against Scoot, right? I think that's the first game. Yeah, so ain't no way the NBA's going to tell them to sit down. They're probably telling the Spurs, no load management for this game.
No.
But yeah, it should be an exciting time for your Silver and Black. Rudy, you are back on Twitter. So what's been going on? What's going on with Sweep the League? I heard that you found a bunch of 90s retro videotapes that you're going to be giving away. Is that true? What?
Yeah, if I can feel myself peeling away from the Spurs championships, the very first 2 championships they won, I found the VHS tapes. For those kids out there, you have to have a VCR.
There's these called VCR kids. Yes.
Yeah.
Rectangle disc.
Jeff could tell you were Albert Einstein if you could figure out how to put the time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nobody figured that out. But Sweep the League's back. I came back a few days ago, back on the social media. Took a long, much needed break. So felt good, felt relaxed. We actually recorded an episode that was released today. And we're looking forward to doing more shows. We got a lot of stuff that was been planned for the past month. We were still talking, still brainstorming. So we've got a lot of stuff coming out, different stuff. I'm kind of worried because I'm hoping that it doesn't fall in our face, but look for a lot of us in the San Antonio doing parodies, stuff like that. So it should be a lot of fun.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Again, follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. He is back, everybody. So make sure you do that. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Tomorrow's show, we're likely to be more about Summer Spurs and getting ready for the Las Vegas games, wrapping up the Sacramento games, and so much more. Likely more Wemby, so brace us up for that. And you can make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes. The list goes on and on and on. And again, we always thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.